Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Apple II machines. So without further ado, let's get right to it. So you may have noticed that I'm actually up in the living room right now, and I will be down in the basement shortly. This rather large pile of Apple IIe computers comes from viewer AJ up in Seattle. The way AJ ended up with this many machines is a little bit of an interesting story. It all goes back to the fact that these computers are all marked up with a school district branding. I think it says Clover Park School District. I'll show you the logo in a second. Well, it turned out that someone AJ knows ended up acquiring a warehouse. This is a separate person. And in that warehouse, someone had left behind pallets and pallets of Apple II and other computers. They all must have come from this school district or potentially multiple school districts. But the person who got that warehouse wasn't really interested in retro computers or anything old at the time. So he asked AJ if he would like some of the Apple IIs. AJ said yes. And he ended up with these in his warehouse. Well, he reached out to me because he decided that there was really no point to have these Apple IIs just like sitting up on a shelf in his warehouse collecting dust, and he figured it might be better for the community. So he offered these to me. Now, AJ's based up in Seattle, I'm in Portland, so it wasn't that long of a drive to head up there and fill up the back of my car with these and bring them back down to Portland. What I'd like to do in this video is take a quick look at all of these computers and see which of them work, what the condition is of all of them, and which are going to need some repair. There are some machines that are missing keys and parts and stuff like that, so not all of these are going to work, but there should be enough parts here to make a good number of working machines. Now, I know people are going to ask, so I'll just answer this question here, but the question is, what am I going to do with this many Apple IIe machines? The answer is, honestly, I do not know yet. I just wanted to kind of go through these. I might as well document it on a video, and then I will decide at a future time what to do with all these machines. And hopefully it'll be something interesting more than them just sitting around collecting dust. So I think at this point I need to start taking these machines downstairs one by one with the camera set up on the bench. Let's start testing. All right, here is machine number one. Now I'm using the GoPro in addition to my normal camera to hopefully be able to get a top-down view of this, because the normal camera I use is really good for close-ups, but it's not good for the full picture when you have big things on the bench like this. All right, so this is going to be machine number one. It's obviously an Apple IIe Platinum, so the difference between the regular IIe and Platinum, it is the numeric keypad mainly. I don't think there's really any other difference. Oh, well, the color of the case is also a creamy white like the rest of Apple's lineup, like the Macintoshes and stuff. It doesn't have that beige color that the regular IIe has. This particular one, though, is quite yellowed, so of course it's it doesn't really look like a Platinum except for the lid. So here you can get a good look at the Clover Park School District branding that's on the machine, and this really seems like it's paint. So I don't think there's any actual easy way to get this off, and it's on most of the computers. So if anyone has any suggestions on how to get this paint off, please let me know. You may also notice that because these things were stuck on a pallet, I think originally when they were rescued from the school district here, that the cases are all rather scratched up. This one in particular has a little bit of this foam stuck on it. Wow, which is really, really stuck on there. I think this is that expanding foam. Whoa, okay, there, it came off. I did put a little scratch in the case there, but I think I was using a plastic tool. That should come off with a little magic eraser. You can clearly see here the keyboard has been pillaged of all of its keys. There is a broken stem there and a broken stem there. This is good because the other computers have broken keys. I will need stems, or rather the key switches or whatever brand of switch this is, so I can harvest them off of this. On the side of the computer, Clover Park School District, and this is not my label, won't turn on. Someone else did the old masking tape trick there, so perhaps this thing has a bad power supply. AJ wasn't sure the state of these machines. He said a long time ago, years ago, they were turned on to see which ones worked and which one didn't, so maybe that's from that. But obviously these have been sitting a long time and things could fail between then and now anyways. And on this side of the machine, it does say CPSD, obviously for Clover Park School District, 400, and there's some other numbers that are engraved. So let's pop off the cover, take a look inside. Inside the machine, things look pretty good. This is one of the later Apple II power supplies. It's also the same one that's typically found in an Apple II GS, although Apple kind of mixed and matched them. The connector is not directly compatible with what's on the 2GS, although the 2GS does have the pin header, so you could install the connector on the motherboard here and then use regular Apple II power supplies with the 2GS. There is a regular Apple II disk controller card here. This is the type that was first used on the Apple II Plus, so it's rather old. It says 1978 right here on the copyright date. You wouldn't expect that this would be the one you would find in a machine like this, but obviously this was stuck into like one of these lower slots here, slot 1 I think, which is clearly not where this would have been in its original configuration. And right here is the typical 64K RAM expansion that would be typical for these machines, these Platinum ones. I'm not sure what year Apple started making the IIe Platinums like this, but this one appears to be at least from 1989, because that's some of the date codes I see on here. And they did make the Apple IIe, I think, into the 90s, and it was this machine that kind of carried it forward. One of the giveaways of this is the later revision motherboard is it's got 2 RAM chips here to make up 64K, kind of like the later Commodore 64s. Otherwise, it's a pretty bog standard IIe, and it doesn't look like it's molested on the inside either. Okay, so this machine is connected to the RetroTink. I got a power cord here. Let's plug this in. Here we go. Dead. That would imply the power supply is broken. And I just happen to have a spare power supply, and I don't actually know if this one works. This is obviously, it's a gold color case, so it's the earlier Apple II Plus variety, but it should totally do the trick in this machine, if it works, of course. All right, here we go. Okay, so we're seeing a little bit of garbage on the screen. It could well be the power supply though. I'll just pull out the extra 64K RAM board there in case that was causing an issue. Let's turn this back on. There's no beep or anything. Oh, I just saw it say Apple II, but where's the image? All right, so measuring the voltage, we're getting 5.1 volts out of the power supply, so I know this power supply actually is fine. And the speaker, which is under the keyboard, I can see is actually connected to the motherboard. It's weird how there is an image and then it goes away. Now, okay, so I'm not totally sure about the RetroTink. I mean, it's a great device, but the Apple II's video is not that standard, so to speak. So I'm just gonna grab a monitor just in case. The Apple IIc monitor is far more tolerant of non-spec video signals than the Tink is. So let's turn this back on now. All right. There it is. That is a working Apple IIe. So let's see if I can get into the diagnostics mode. On later ROMmed Apple IIs, you hold down the Open Apple, Closed Apple, or on this machine, I think it's Option and Open Apple, and Control and Reset, and that enters the diagnostic mode. And this will give us a result at the end. Oh, there we go, system okay. Well, it's not quite okay because we definitely have no speaker. I'm gonna plug this RAM card back in again, this 64K RAM expansion, and let's see if this makes it work better because definitely doesn't seem to work. So that just gives us literally a black screen. Huh, so that's weird. In fact, when I turned it on, the power LED didn't come on, but the machine is definitely still working. So is this card faulty or did I put it in the wrong way? I'm pretty sure it goes in with the chips facing this direction, which is exactly the same way you would put one of these cards in. Everything looks fine on this board, so let me just pop that in one more time. That could explain why this power supply isn't turning on. Let's see. Oh, wait. Maybe the connector's loose? It's working now? Let's try diagnostics. All right, system okay. So I guess it's working fine with that RAM card. I have a speaker here, so let me plug this in just so I can try to figure out what's wrong with the speaker here. All right, is it gonna beep? There it is. The speaker's bad. All right. All right, so machine number 1. Bad speaker and bad PSU. It obviously goes without saying that the keyboard is missing all of its keys. I don't need to write that down on a note. May as well test out this card with a floppy drive while I'm at it. I'm probably gonna take any cards that are in these machines other than the memory cards out of the computer just so I can decide better, you know, where to stick them or whatever. I am going to boot up DazzleDraw, which is a double high-res paint program. It requires that you have 128K for it to even work. So it's kind of a good test in that regard. Here we go. Weird. So I turned it on and didn't even attempt to boot the disk controller. This card is populated. This may just be a bad disk controller card. Let's try again. Oh, I think the slots on this thing are dirty. Probably need a little Deoxit in them or something. All right, so that's good, double high res. That means it's 120K is absolutely working. Hit the space bar. Yeah, the mouse is not connected, I realize that. Hit enter. All right, it's not letting me get past this screen because I don't have a mouse or a joystick hooked up to this thing. And I don't remember ever having that problem before, but I think on the Apple IIc, which is where I normally run this, it has a mouse card built in and it can't tell the mouse is not connected. But it knows the mouse is not in this thing, so it's not letting me boot. So I'm just gonna use Attack of the Petsky Robots from David Murray. Let's hit the reboot there. Should have some sound and stuff. Oh yeah, well, I didn't hook the speaker back up. This definitely is gonna require the 128K though. There it even says 128K. Okay, the game appears to be working perfectly. So for this disk controller, I'm just gonna draw a little tick mark right here just to say that that works. And the only problems we have with this machine are a bad speaker, and I forgot the R there, bad speaker, and a bad PSU. So this original note here that does not turn on was pretty accurate. I'm just gonna stick this Post-it note right here on the side, and we'll just put the old number 1 on the blue tape just to hold it all on. And I'm putting it on the side, that way the lid, I can take the lid off and move that around, and I'll stick all the notes on the right side of these machines. I think we're gonna find that these Apple IIe's probably all work perfectly, other than maybe the occasional dead power supply. Apple machines of this era were just so reliable. I guess all Apple IIs are pretty reliable. I've never really had, other than RAM problems, and never had any issues. All right, now I'm gonna speed up the process a little bit here because obviously there is not much different. Hey, this is machine number 2. I did not put this number 2 label on here. This was done by someone else. That's pretty funny. But anyhow, I was saying I'm gonna speed up the process here because all of these machines, I'm gonna go through all the Platinum machines first. So I'll just point out more the obvious differences with these. That way I'm not dwelling forever on identical machines because that will get pretty boring pretty quickly. All right, so one of the differences on this machine, obviously, is it's got broken keys. It's got the same little scuff marks on there. Let's pop the lid open. Oh yes, okay. So what I had done when I unloaded these from the car is some of these, the keys were like loose, like stuck on the keyboard. Probably they were broken when things were slid across the keyboards, like say when the computer's being stacked, if someone was not careful and they hit the keyboard like that with another machine, it would just snap the stems right off. So if I found keys that seemed to go with the machine, then I would put it with them. So in this little bag here, I have the delete key, which is there, and I have the plus and the equal key, which is that, but I only have these 2 keys, so I am still missing the shift and the number 3 from the keypad. So like those are just gone. I obviously can't reuse these keys without replacing these stems because these are all snapped off, but that donor keyboard in that other machine, obviously I can take all the stems I need from that, and then I just have to extract the stem from these keys. I'm not gonna do that kind of keyboard repair in this video because it's not that much to it, or maybe I'll do it in a future video and I'll just, I don't know, on the second channel. I haven't figured it out, but yeah, anyways, let's just look at what's wrong or not wrong with these machines. All right, so inside, same revision, has the RAM card. This has the Super Serial card in it, so this is kind of nice. This is like the desirable Apple II serial card, so you can hook it up to ADT Pro, for instance. This has a much later disk controller in it, one I would think is period appropriate for this machine. It's got little surface mount resistors on the back too. Oh, and it says Liron on here. Liron. I gotta look that up. If you're ever trying to read up about Apple II disk controller cards, you go to this site here, the wiki.apple2.org, and they have the really great resource on here. So here it is, the Liron card. It's the Unidisc controller. It says right here that the Liron card has the integrated WAS machine, that's the 342.041 chip in the middle of the card and is labeled Liron on the back side. That is this IC right here, and I should have noticed that. That is the same controller that's used on like the Apple IIc, and even the Macintoshes actually use this same chip. This is the original 3.5-inch card, also known as the Apple SmartPort card. It's the Apple IIc SmartPort on a card. I can control external SmartPort hard drives and hard disks like the Pro app and various things. So this is really cool. I don't have one of these cards. This allows you to use regular 5¼ disk drives, but also any SmartPort device. A typical SmartPort device is like the floppy EMU emulating a hard drive. So you can boot 32 megabyte images directly on an Apple IIe, or I guess a 2 Plus probably, if you have this card installed. A 2C and a 2GS can also natively support SmartPort devices, but on an Apple IIe, you need this card or something better. Apple also made a Unidisc disk drive, 3.5-inch, which I actually have one, and it's funny because it's very much like Commodore 1541 in that it's got a 6502 processor in it. And this SmartPort protocol this is talking about, it's almost like a packetized protocol over the floppy interface. So the way the Apple II, like the 1 megahertz machines like this, can even use a 3.5-inch disk drive is using SmartPort, because the disk drive has a computer in it, 6502 and RAM and whatever, and it sends the information in bursts so that this slower computer can utilize it. There is a more fancy card that Apple made that can natively run 3.5-inch disk drives, but that has a special ASIC on it that has its own horsepower that's able to handle the exact timing the disk drive needs and all that, as opposed to SmartPort, which put the smarts in the disk drive. So I removed both of these cards from the back plate. I'm not going to test the Super Serial card right now. There's not much to test on those. But I'm definitely going to test this disk controller out, and I'll just do that by connecting up an external 5¼ inch floppy. Since I use this non-Apple disk drive, let's do it again. And we'll use this non-Apple disk drive. It's a MyTac. It does have the Apple 19-pin connector. And what I really like about this drive is it's got a track 0 sensor. So it prevents the head banging on the Apple II. The drive won't seek past track 0, so it ends up being very quiet of a disk drive. So it's kind of unusual as far as Apple II disk drives go. Let's move Petsky Robots over to the MyTac. All right, here we go. Got a normal beep, but we did not get the boot sound. Oh, and of course we have no picture because the video cable is not connected. All right, try number 2 on machine number 2. All right, well, it just goes to the basic prompts, even though the card is definitely installed in the slot. First off, let's just try the Diagnostics. At least it beeped. While this runs, let me just see if I can get a read on the voltage. We're getting a very nice 5.0032 volts. Just checking the other rails here, minus 12. Minus 4.9982, that's very good. And there's the 12 volt rail, that's a little bit low, but to be honest, that's fine, because the disk drive is all that uses that really. And while I was poking around, the Diagnostics passed, so that is good. Number 6. Device not connected. See, that's coming from the Liron card. Is it not liking my disk drive? Okay, well, the GoPro didn't work out so well. It ran out of space on the memory card, and I have a 16 gig card in there. The GoPro must use very high bitrate files, because 16 gigs, I mean, the camera that I'm shooting above the bench only has a 32 gig card, and it's not gonna run out of space doing this, so I don't feel like getting another memory card, so we're not gonna have the wide angle shot from the top down. Oh well. All right, so the question is, why isn't it booting off this drive? Now, what I don't know about this particular ROM is if I try to do PR and number like 5, which is a card that's not even in this machine, is the machine gonna say not connected? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that the Apple IIe did this, because the Apple II Plus does. And if you try to go to PR in a slot that's not occupied, the computer just hangs. Well, I was excited about the Liron card, but it doesn't appear that it's being recognized. The only thing I can think to do is put a little Deoxit on its contacts here. They don't look corroded or dirty at all in any way. And I guess I can pop it into, say, slot number 5. Let's just see. Oh, it goes in so much easier. Wow. Yep. Okay, here we go. Let's try that. Nope. PR number 5. Not connected. All right. All right, so there could still be a fault in this machine. These custom chips here generate the signaling for the slots. I'm gonna try this other disk controller card, which we know works. I'm gonna stick it into slot number 5. I'll pop the floppy into the lower drive. Here we go. And it's booting. Oh, the Liron card is bad. That is so disappointing. I won't rule it out yet. Let's test it on the next computer that works. And there's the music for Attack of the Petsky Robots. Well, let's turn that off. I don't think all is lost for this card. It's just gonna need more troubleshooting. I'm just gonna draw a question mark in the corner here. But hey, this Apple IIe works perfectly on the other hand. No issues other than the broken keys. So what I'm left with is number 2. It has missing shift and number pad number 3 key because the other 2 keys are good. Next up, machine number 3. It says 19 on the side here. That's not my numbering, as I said before. What's nice about this computer, as you may notice, it does not have Clover Park School District, whatever, branding on the side or on the top. It's definitely yellowed. On this part, it has a little green property tag here with no number on it, but it does say property of Clover Park School District, Tacoma, Washington. So that's where these machines obviously came from. Has the same CPS D400 written on the side and some stuff engraved. But this machine is in pretty nice shape, other than the yellowing. And the fact it's missing the number 1 key. But, I mean, like, who cares, right? Because I can take it off one of the other machines. All right, so I'm noticing the keyboard has something that's been sticky that's spilled on this area of the keyboard here. Still works, probably can be cleaned and without any issue, but the keyboard is dirtier than the other ones. But otherwise, this machine is nice. It's got a Liron card again in here, so that's nice. And the Super Serial card, which I'm just gonna pop out. And the usual RAM expansion card. So I'm gonna plug this disk drive, the one I was trying to use on the other one. You know what, just in case it was that disk drive that killed the other card, I'm gonna use a different disk drive. I've used this disk drive, this MyTac drive, on the Apple IIc plenty of times, and on the Apple IIgs if I recall. But just in case it's somehow not compatible, let me grab an Apple disk drive. These drives are the ones that would typically be used with these machines. In fact, I'm sure that this would have been used with this particular machine. So Petsky Robots into this top disk drive here. Ooh, what's going on here? Oh, there's a disk in here. My Copy 2 Plus, I had left it in there, I guess. All right, and here we go. Wow, is this Liron card bad as well? Are you kidding me? Also, there's no sound on this machine either. What's up with that? Maybe this school district was purposefully disabling the speaker, like cutting the wire or something. I mean, it doesn't look broken. I'm just looking underneath there. Speaker is definitely connected. It does not look broken, but there's no sound on that first one. It only worked when I plugged a different speaker in. So yeah, okay, system okay. So the Liron card is in slot number 7. And let's PR number 7. It just says no device connected. Oh, take a look at this. I just popped the connector off the back and there is definitely signs of moisture and corrosion there. Hasn't made its way onto the card though. Everything looks completely fine here. I'm gonna draw another question mark on this card. The Super Serial card looks pretty standard, so just pop that out. And the system has no problem booting up Petsky Robots through the old disk controller. I just quickly checked the voltages and everything looks fine. And the game booted up, no sound of course. I'm sure if I unplug this speaker, which I guess is bad, and hook up this one, which I think I took out of an old monitor. Sound obviously works perfectly. When you hook up a speaker, that is not bad. So the working speaker is about 15 ohms. It's a bit high actually, isn't it? Oh, 16 ohms, okay, that is normal. And the built-in speaker, nothing. I get nothing on it. Nothing at all. There appears to be another issue with this machine. If I turn it upside down, it's got a big dent in the bottom of the computer case right here. Luckily, it's not the end of the world. I'll just take the bottom off of that one without the keys on it, because that has a good bottom to make one good machine. So number 3 has a bad speaker and a missing 1 key. Gosh, my writing's bad. All right, machine number 4. So this one weirdly has a bunch of keys that are different amount of yellowing. This machine overall is not that yellow, except these keys. I mean, I wonder if someone mixed and matched keys, like this one was missing some. Also, these keys here are broken off and missing, as is the escape key. And then for whatever reason, there is a 4 drawn on here, and I'm assuming that is like a permanent marker. And on the side of the machine, we have machine number 9, that was the old label, and Clover Park School District written there. It's also missing a couple of its feet, and the bottom is slightly dented, just slightly. Everything inside this machine is exactly like it was in the other Platinums, except it has no serial card, and the disc controller card is the normal Apple II disc controller card. So if I get this out of here, this is exactly the same as the one I've been using that works, this one with a ribbon cable. Same exact layout, same everything. The only difference is Apple switched from having 2 separate connectors for your ribbon cables to the disk drives, and it goes to a 19-pin connector on the back of the computer. The power and video is connected. I did not connect the disk drive. Let's just see if this turns on. It does, and this is kind of what I expect the other ones to do with the Liron cards. It just sits here trying to boot the disk drive, which isn't connected, so obviously it's not going to work. If I try to go to PR number 5, though, see, this is what I expected to happen. It just says nothing, it just freezes. There's no card in slot 5 right now. I'm just going to try one of these Liron cards here. Let's just see what happens here, just for fun. All right, so we turn this on. I think it's trying to boot slot 7 first, which is where I stuck the Liron card. PR number 7. Okay, no device connected. Okay, so I guess that's expected. So I'll plug that in, let's turn it on. We should hear the disk drive. Yep. So I put the Petsky robots in there. I didn't even run the diagnostics on this machine. It's clearly working. Was there really no beep though? Does this thing have a bad speaker too? Is a bad speaker really the most common thing ever on the Platinum IIes? I mean, how is this even possible? That this speaker's bad too. And I did double check, by the way. It is connected correctly on the motherboard. I checked the other ones as well, but yeah, this one is connected. Let's plug this speaker in, the other one. There we go. This is working as well, so it's a bad speaker as well. So I was looking online for a manual for the Liron card because maybe it doesn't support 5 1/4 inch disk drives. Maybe it only supports SmartPort. I mean, could that be? This is Big Mess of Wires, has a little article on it here. It says the Liron contains an IWM chip, 4K of ROM, and a handful of 7400 glue logic. It took a few hours to trace all the connections on the board to create schematics. Except for the IWM, the exact functions of the other chips are all well known, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So yeah, this is just talking about making a clone of this card using FPGA. There it is right there. What I'm just not sure about is if the Liron card is only for SmartPort and you're supposed to use it in conjunction with a normal disk controller card as well, kind of like I have here. I guess there's only one way to find out, and here's the floppy emu. I'm gonna set this up in SmartPort mode and we're gonna try. I hope it doesn't blow this thing out because these are rather pricey. Okay, so I'm gonna power this on. Whoa, it does work. The message on the screen is GSOS requires 2GS hardware, and that's because on my floppy emu, on the SD card, I have the Apple 2GS boot hard drive on here. So let me just swap this around to something that will work on this machine. All right, so this should now boot up Total Replay. Unbelievable. So the card does not support normal disk drives, only supports SmartPort disk drives, which would be like the Unidisc or a hard drive, or like this thing. Unbelievable. But it's absolutely working. Wow. And there it is. Karateka, I just loaded it off the hard drive image. So it's very surprising to me that those machines seem to only have the Liron card in it. What were they using with it? 3.5 inch discs with the uni drives, and that's it. Or maybe someone had taken out the other disk controller cards, or maybe there's something I'm missing here. Like if you have an actual 3.5 inch uni disk drive, you can then plug a normal, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe you need the uni drive, and then you can plug the normal floppy drive into the back of it. I'm gonna grab the actual Unidisc drive. Let's try that. I just want to quickly check the owner's manual for this disk drive to make sure that this port on the back of the drive really does support a 5 1/4 inch disk drive. Okay, so Apple IIe or 2 Plus configuration. For installation on this machine, you need the interface card, which is the Liron card. The interface card supports a maximum of 2 Unidisc 3.5 drives. If you plan to connect more than 2 drives, you need another card. If you plan to use the Unidisc with an Apple IIe 2 Plus and programs on a 5 1/4 inch disk drive, you will also need the 5 1/4 inch disk drive for a startup boot device. It's not even clear. Does that mean I can plug it into the back of this? Oh, let's just check the actual instructions for the IIe here. Okay, so take the cover off, stick the card in, plug the disk drive in that's labeled 1, plug the power cord in your computer. Okay. If your computer is a IIe, your second disk drive must also be a Unidisc 3.5. However, if you have a 2C, your second drive can be either the Unidisc or a regular 5 1/4 inch disk drive. That's what Apple Disc 2C is. All right, so that clinches it. You can only use one of these Unidisc 3.5s, and yeah, this is what it looks like. If you are looking for one of these, you can tell the way the button looks here and the LED, it's raised up from the normal 3.5 inch disk drive used on the Apple IIgs, where the button is down here next to the slot. That's the difference. On the back, it's all pretty much the same thing. It's got the pass-through port here. But like I said, this has got, this has the 6502 in there. This has an entire processor and RAM and everything, just like a Commodore disk drive in it. So this Liron card works. Let me just grab the other one, and I'm sure that other card works as well. So that's pretty cool because these cards are really hard to find. And what's awesome is it will allow me to easily use my floppy EMU to boot hard drive images on these machines. I'm gonna stick this other Liron card into slot, I don't know what this is, 4. So we turn this on. It's gonna try to boot the regular disk drive, so I gotta stop that. PR number 4, here we go. There it is, total replay. So both cards work, thumbs up. So this disk controller works great. This is the 5 1/4 inch one. And then for the Liron cards here, it's gonna use some IPA and get that question mark off of them, because these cards work fantastically. They work as designed. It's actually a little interesting that these cards only support those uni drives. I guess the thought was that you got this with your 3.5 inch disk drive and that you would still have your old 5 1/4 inch controller for use with your legacy disk drives. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, the Apple IIc has a lot more integration where that one port on the back of the machine can support different kinds of drives and stuff. And even on the Apple IIgs, that port supports up to 4 disk drives at once, all daisy chained, while the 2C can only support 1 or 2 disk drives connected to it, 1 unit drive or smart port drive, and then 1 regular disk drive. And then the 2E, if you have the standard disk controller like the one that was in this machine, this one here, this can support 2 5 1/4 inch drives daisy chained, but nothing else, no 3.5 inch stuff. And then these, obviously, like we saw, can support 2 smart port drives, which incidentally, this can emulate 2 smart port drives at once, or you have to plug 2 physical drives in. I suppose I could plug in a disk drive and this, although maybe not. No, I wouldn't even try that. I'm afraid of ruining something, because even though Apple uses the same connector on all these machines, if you plug like a Unidisc drive into a Mac, like a Mac Plus or a Mac 512, I think it causes destruction. Or so I've read, at least. I can't be sure about that. All right, number 4, missing keys, bad speaker. And there was no bag in this machine, so I don't have any of these keys, so I'm gonna have to take them off other machines or hodgepodge this computer together with another one, because this one's in pretty good shape. Oh yeah, well, it's in good shape except for the giant 4 written on the top. Just for fun, I'm gonna take a little bit of IPA. Yeah, that's not coming off. If this is permanent marker, then I know a trick. Well, okay, it is actually coming off a little bit. One trick that a lot of people say you can do is you take a dry erase marker and you draw over this, and whatever chemicals in the dry erase, it starts to kind of loosen up the ink. Unfortunately, that does work if I drew on it with a Sharpie. But as you saw on the Liron cards, 99% IPA also takes this right off. For stuff that's been on there for 30, 40 years, it doesn't work so well. And not to mention, that marker might have been something that was really chemically toxic, not like a modern day Sharpie. But because I'm gonna have a lot of comments about it, here's a dry erase marker. Let's give this a try. I'm gonna put a thick layer of this on here. Watch me eat my words where this comes off like completely and utterly. This is a Quartet Endurance dry erase marker. I happen to have some actual dry erase board cleaner here, so let's just give this a little test. I'm gonna get a cloth ready here. I don't want it to like run down into the computer. Spray, spray, spray. Well, obviously it's doing something here. Whoa! Look at this! What? This is crazy. This is disintegrated. Okay, I've never had that happen before. Wow. The entire plastic top is just so brittle, it's breaking apart in my fingers. All right, well, how about we use this, some 50% isopropyl alcohol. See how this works. Well, it's taking off the dry erase marker. Like, it's obviously having an effect on here, and I think the problem is it just gets down in the grain, the texture of the plastic, and that's where it gets really stuck. So I just did part of the 4 there. And let's try again here. On that reapplication, just on the top part of the 4, it doesn't really look any different. Maybe it's a little bit lighter than this lower part, but it seems to have barely any effect at this point. So I suppose if you go over it over and over and over again, maybe it'll make it go away eventually. Although I've tried this once on another machine and it just never went away fully. It always sort of looked like this. Now, is this better than the 4 that was there? I guess, but at the same time, it's kind of annoying because the texture's so visible. So I don't know. Well, sorry to say, I'm gonna have to end the video here. I was actually hoping to get through all 60 machines in this video, but upon editing it, it seems that the first 4 took a lot longer than I thought. I will speed up dramatically in the second part because now I've worked through the issues, especially with that Liron card. Liron? Liron? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I've probably been saying it wrong the entire time. It was honestly the first time I've ever seen one of those cards in person, and I've never heard anyone pronounce the name of that card on a video or in person. It's just, I've only ever read about it. I can't help but say I'm a little bit disappointed that so far the first 4 machines have all been working perfectly other than the faulty power supply in the first machine. And I'll definitely be doing a repair video on that power supply to try to get it working. I'm trying to hone my skills and get a little bit better at servicing and switching power supplies. I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's a good chance that many or all of these power supplies have reefer caps in them. And if you've watched my videos, you know what happens with reefer caps. They let out the magic smoke. And while that's kind of fun to see on camera, the smell and the smoke screen, I don't really need that. So I will be needing to go through and remove those reefer caps, or at least check to see if there's reefer in there. And if there is, pull it out and replace it with something a little more modern and something that isn't gonna let out the smoke in my basement. As far as the channel goes, don't worry, I will definitely be getting back to the Atari 520 ST and the TRS-80 Model 1. There are parts of both machines sitting in different areas in the basement here. I can see them from where I'm sitting here. So I will be getting back to those. I just wanted to kind of get through these Apple IIs because they're taking up some space and I need to put them into some storage for a little while. So getting through all of them and categorizing which ones work, which ones need service was something I needed to do sooner than later. So with that said, that is actually going to be the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. I'd love to hear your comments and your suggestions down in the comment section below, especially suggestions on how to get that painted Clover Park School District off of these machines. Maybe there's a technique that will get that off without melting the plastic of the case. I don't think these are painted cases. Some of the early Apple IIs are actually painted. I don't think any of these Apple IIe's are going to be. So it's paint on top of the plastic. Anyhow, also check out my second channel if you haven't already. Lots of videos going up there, including super mini mail calls. And I want to thank my patrons. Their names are scrolling up the side of the screen. Is it this side? I think it's, I always point to the wrong side, so I never point anymore. If you want to become a patron, you can do so at the link in the description below. I really want to thank all of them. They make a lot of this possible and allow me to buy stuff I need for the channel and make this happen. So that is going to be it. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.